The Lakers front office faces one of those crossroads moments that will define the trajectory of this entire season. Rob Pelinka is sitting at his desk right now, evaluating every single asset on this roster. And I need to be completely transparent with you about something that's been circulating in basketball analysis circles that could change everything we thought we knew about how this season might unfold. Welcome to Lakers News Fan Report, your home for the most updated news, breaking developments, and honest analysis about our beloved Lakers. This is where you get the real story, the strategic breakdowns, and the insights that matter most to us as fans who bleed purple and gold. And today I'm bringing you something that demands our full attention because it directly impacts the future of this franchise. Let me set the stage for you. We're deep into the season and the Western Conference is an absolute gauntlet. Every single night presents a new challenge and the margin for error has essentially evaporated. The Lakers have been navigating through this competitive landscape with mixed results, showing flashes of brilliance one night and concerning vulnerabilities the next. And this inconsistency has forced the organization to take a hard look at every aspect of this roster construction. When you're competing in a conference that features the defending champions, the rising Timberwolves, the explosive Mavericks, and so many other legitimate contenders, you cannot afford to have roster spots that aren't contributing to winning basketball games right now. Now, I want you to think about something for a moment. When we talk about championship-caliber teams, what separates the contenders from the pretenders? It's not just about having two superstars, although LeBron James and Anthony Davis give us exactly that foundation. It's about roster depth. It's about having players who can step into games and immediately impact both ends of the floor. It's about perimeter defense, which has been one of our most glaring weaknesses this season. Opponents have been able to get comfortable from beyond the arc against us, and that's simply unacceptable if we have legitimate championship aspirations. The Lakers currently find themselves in a fascinating position regarding their trade assets. Everyone knows that Austin Reaves has emerged as the most valuable trade chip on this roster. His development has been phenomenal, his two-way play has improved dramatically, and his contract situation makes him an extremely attractive piece for any team looking to make a move. But here's where things get interesting, and this is where I need you to pay close attention because this is the conversation that's happening right now in basketball circles. Reaves isn't the only asset the Lakers could potentially leverage to improve this roster before the trade deadline. There are other pieces, other contracts, other players who could be moved to address the specific needs that are preventing this team from reaching its full potential. Rob Pelinka finds himself in a challenging cap situation. This isn't news to anyone who follows the Lakers closely. The financial constraints are real, and they limit the flexibility that the organization has to make major moves. But Pelinka has proven throughout his tenure that he's capable of creative maneuvering, of finding solutions that others might overlook. The Lakers have several expiring contracts on the books, and these contracts represent potential pathways to roster upgrades. The question isn't whether the Lakers need to make moves. It's about identifying which moves make the most sense both for the immediate present and the long-term future of this franchise. Let me take you back to the offseason for a moment, because understanding the decisions made then helps contextualize the situation we're facing now. The Lakers made a choice that seemed relatively straightforward at the time, but has come under increased scrutiny as the season has progressed. The organization decided to waive Jordan Goodwin, a player who had shown some promise and provided defensive energy off the bench. Why did they waive Goodwin? To keep two younger players on the roster, Dalton Knecht and Bronny James. At the time, this decision made sense from a certain perspective. You're investing in young talent, you're keeping flexibility, you're maintaining relationships that matter to the organization. But here's where we need to have an honest conversation about how things have actually played out. Knecht and James have not been part of the regular rotation. They're not getting significant minutes. They're not making the kind of impact that justifies their roster spots when you're in championship or bust mode with LeBron James still playing at an elite level. Meanwhile, and this is the part that stings a little bit, Jordan Goodwin has been thriving with the Phoenix Suns. He's contributing to a team that's been surprisingly competitive, providing exactly the kind of defensive energy and hustle plays that we could desperately use right now. That's not to say the decision was wrong at the time, but it does illustrate how roster decisions can have ripple effects that weren't fully anticipated. And this brings us to the heart of today's discussion, the topic that I know has been on many of your minds and has been the subject of intense debate among Lakers analysts and fans. We need to talk about Bronny James and his future with this organization. Now, before anyone jumps to conclusions or gets defensive, I want to make something absolutely clear. This isn't about disrespecting Bronny, this isn't about disrespecting LeBron, and this isn't about being negative. This is about being realistic about where this team is right now, and what moves might be necessary to maximize our championship window while we still have LeBron performing at this level. Bronny James was selected by the Lakers with the 55th overall pick in the 2024 NBA Draft. That selection came with enormous media attention, historic significance as the first father-son duo to play together in the NBA, and understandably high expectations given his lineage. LeBron James is arguably the greatest player to ever play this game, and naturally there was hope that some of that greatness might translate to his son's game. But we're now 51 games into Bronny's NBA career, and we need to objectively assess what we've seen on the court. The statistics tell a challenging story. Bronny is averaging just 19 points and 0.9 assists per game throughout his career thus far. His shooting percentages have been concerning, to put it diplomatically. He's shooting 31.8% from the field overall and 32% from three-point range. For a guard in today's NBA, where shooting and spacing are absolutely critical, these numbers simply aren't where they need to be for a player to earn meaningful minutes on a contending team. And I want to emphasize something important here. These aren't small sample sizes anymore. We're talking about 51 games, which is enough data to establish clear trends. Now, there are positives in Bronny's game that deserve recognition. He's shown himself to be an engaged and committed defender. He can hold his own on the perimeter, he understands defensive assignments, and he's willing to do the dirty work in the low post when switched onto bigger players. His defensive instincts are legitimate, and that's not nothing. Defense is half the game, and having that foundation is valuable. But in today's NBA, especially for a guard, you cannot be a liability on the offensive end. You have to be able to space the floor, you have to be able to knock down open shots, and you have to be able to facilitate within the offense. Right now, Bronny's offensive limitations are too significant to justify rotation minutes on a team with championship aspirations. And this is where the analysis gets uncomfortable but necessary. There's now legitimate discussion happening about whether the Lakers should consider moving on from Bronny James before the trade deadline. This isn't coming from a place of malice or disrespect, it's coming from a strategic assessment of what this team needs to compete at the highest level. The argument goes like this: Bronny won't command immense trade value given his statistics and limited playing time, but he does have value. Teams might be interested in taking a chance on developing him, especially teams that are in rebuilding modes and can afford to be patient with young talent. The Lakers, in return, could potentially acquire depth pieces, defensive specialists, or simply create roster flexibility to make other moves. The Lakers desperately need perimeter defense and depth. Every Lakers fan watching games this season has seen opponents get hot from three-point range, has seen opposing guards attack our defensive schemes with success, has seen our depth tested in ways that reveal concerning gaps. If moving Bronny could be part of a package that brings in a proven perimeter defender, or if it creates the roster space necessary to make another acquisition, then from a pure basketball strategy standpoint, it's a conversation that must be had. Rob Pelinka has to get creative given the cap constraints, and sometimes creativity means making difficult decisions that prioritize winning now over sentimental considerations. Here's the reality that I think we all need to acknowledge. The Lakers are in a unique and precious window. LeBron James at his age is still performing at an all-star level. Anthony Davis, when healthy, is one of the most dominant two-way players in basketball. We have the foundation of a championship team. But that window won't stay open forever. Every season that passes without a championship is a missed opportunity that we can't get back. And when you're in that situation, every roster spot matters. You cannot afford to have players on your bench who aren't ready to contribute meaningful minutes in high-stakes games. The comparison to what the Lakers gave up to keep Bronny is also relevant here. Jordan Goodwin was waived, and he's now providing exactly the kind of scrappy, defensive-minded play that championship teams need. Could Goodwin be making a difference for us right now? It's impossible to say definitively, but it's a legitimate question. When you're evaluating roster construction, you have to look at opportunity costs. What did we sacrifice to keep certain players, and has that decision been validated by on-court performance? I want to be clear about something else. This discussion isn't suggesting that Bronny James cannot have an NBA career or cannot develop into a rotation player. Development takes time, especially for players who weren't lottery picks, who are still growing into their bodies, who are adjusting to the speed and physicality of professional basketball. But development time is something that rebuilding teams can afford to provide. The Lakers, with LeBron and AD on the roster, are not a rebuilding team. We're a win-now team, and that changes the calculus completely. The trade deadline is approaching, and Rob Pelinka will be evaluating every possible move that could upgrade this roster. Maybe that means packaging multiple players together for a significant upgrade. Maybe that means making smaller moves that address specific needs. Maybe that means being aggressive in pursuing buyout candidates after the deadline passes. But what it definitely means is being honest about which players are contributing to winning basketball right now, and which players represent assets that could be leveraged for better immediate returns. For Bronny specifically, there's also an argument that a change of scenery might actually be beneficial for his development. Playing in Los Angeles, under the massive spotlight that comes with being LeBron's son, with the constant media scrutiny and pressure, might not be the ideal environment for a young player to develop confidence and find his game. A smaller market, a team with less pressure. A situation where he could get consistent G League minutes and gradually earn NBA playing time that might actually be better for his long-term career trajectory. Sometimes the best move for both the team and the player is one that creates separation and allows each to pursue their optimal path. The Western Conference landscape demands that the Lakers act decisively. We're not just competing against one or two teams, we're competing against a loaded conference where 8 or 9 teams have legitimate playoff aspirations, and 4 or 5 teams could realistically win a championship. Standing pat and hoping that internal development will solve our problems isn't a strategy that matches the urgency of our situation. We need to be proactive, we need to be strategic, and we need to be willing to make moves that might be uncomfortable but are necessary for championship pursuit. And here's where I get optimistic, because I genuinely believe that if the Lakers make the right moves, this team can compete with anyone. The talent is there. The leadership is there. What we need is the right complementary pieces, the right defensive scheme, the right roster construction that maximizes the strengths of LeBron and AD while minimizing our weaknesses. That might mean moving on from Bronny. It might mean other moves that we haven't even considered yet. But I trust that Pelinka and the Lakers organization understand what's at stake and will make decisions accordingly. The future isn't terribly bright for Bronny as a Laker right now based on pure basketball analysis. That's not a permanent statement about his potential as a player, but it's an honest assessment of the current situation. And when you're the Los Angeles Lakers, when you have championship expectations every single season, you have to make decisions based on what gives you the best chance to win right now. Sentimental attachments, historic storylines, and family connections are beautiful things, but they cannot supersede the fundamental goal of building the best possible roster to compete for championships. So here's where I want to hear from you, the Lakers faithful, the people who have been riding with this team through every high and low. What do you think about the possibility of the Lakers moving on from Bronny James before the trade deadline? Do you believe it's a necessary basketball decision, or do you think we should continue developing him and hoping for improvement? What specific moves would you like to see Pelinka make to address our perimeter defense and depth issues? Are there other players on the roster you'd be willing to trade to improve our championship odds? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because I genuinely want to know how the fan base is processing this conversation. If you found this analysis valuable, if you appreciate honest and detailed breakdowns of Lakers news and strategy, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to Lakers News Fan Report. Turn on those notifications, because we're bringing you updated coverage every single day as we head toward the trade deadline and into the playoff push. Share this video with your fellow Lakers fans, because these are the conversations we need to be having as we evaluate where this team is and where it needs to go. I'll see you in the next video with more breaking news and analysis. Let's go Lakers!